Okay, welcome back to Daily Driven Alpha. A little bit of an update on the 1600 step nose differential rebuild. So, a little bit's happened. We've pulled the diff apart, had a look at it, cleaned it all up as you can see. And then what we've done is we've taken the half shafts out. We decided not to remove the rear bearings. We thought they were pretty good. But what we did do is we replaced some new seals, oil seals into the diff. And this half shaft, we tore this down yesterday, pulled the handbrake components apart, cleaned them up, and we've still got to tidy the shoes up and repaint them before we put that back together. So that'll be repainted, this backing plate, tighten down the ring bearing. The bearing itself is running pretty freely. There's no slop or anything in it. It runs pretty nicely. You'll see backing plate's been cleaned up, cleaned the face as well where the studs are, just tidied that up a little bit. So that'll be reassembled today. Also cleaned up the components on the cable and put a new little gaiter on that we've ordered from Classic Alfa. You'll see these little ones perish over time. They're just junk. So we'll rip that off. That goes on there. A little trick just to getting this on is we turned this inside out and then put some nice warm soapy water on it, soaped up the ends here, dragged it over and then pulled it back the other way so that it sat with the correct lip on the inside. You might be able to get it across the end over here, but quite a big ask, quite a narrow aperture on the gaiter, as you can see, fairly small. So I think this end was easier. However, if you're not pulling the handbrakes apart and you need to replace the gaiter, I dare say if you heat this up in some hot soapy water and soap up that end, you may get it across. Haven't tried it, but we'll see. So you can see this is currently how it was sitting. This is the one side today. We'll tear this apart. If you haven't seen a half shaft out on these cars before, there's a retaining ring here. This is loose, obviously. We'll tighten down, thread it on, and then you've got a tab washer that sits in here. That actually comes off. But to remove these bearings, you actually need a special tool to pull them. And so that is quite a job. We're not attempting to do that. We haven't got the tools for it, and we don't want to damage the bearings. We don't think there's any issues with the bearings. If there are, I guess we'll have to pull the half shafts out and go and get it done professionally. But like we say on this channel here, there's a lot of this stuff that you can do yourself where you don't need to go and spend thousands of dollars getting other people to do it. This was all done over the last week or so, just using a standard set of tools, our workshop bench, grinder, a vise, nothing out of the ordinary. You can do this if you've got yourself set up. Now, if you haven't seen the handbrake setup on these cars before, they actually have drum brake shoes on the inside of the discs. So these don't get a lot of wear, funnily enough, unless you've got someone doing some crazy stuff. But really, all that's doing is just putting in the park, hill starts and the like. So having to replace these shoes is quite unlikely unless there's been something that's gone wrong and your adjustment's gone out and the shoe's been rubbing on the inside of one of your discs. I'll just show you the disc. So we've cleaned this up. That's the inside of the disc there. that the shoe runs on. Okay, so you'll see outside of the disc there, brake pots and calipers grab on here. Your drum brakes are the ones that kick out into here when you activate them, pull the handbrake on. So really, we wouldn't expect there's a lot of wear there. So really, a couple of things we've learned. These retaining springs that you can see there have got quite a bit of pressure in them. And you'll see one there. So rather than trying to lever those off and risk injury or damage, what we've found is by adjusting this to its full extent and taking the tension off the spring as much as possible, you can then lever the brake shoe open, and this little adjustment here, you can see, sits in against the brake shoes, sits in across here, and as soon as you move the brake shoes out, you can pop this component out, so that'll come out. That gives you a little bit of flexibility there. And then these little spring-loaded stays here, they actually twist. You push them in and twist them out. You'll be able to see there. So it's keyed in, and so what happens is this little component here, once you put the pressure on and move it in, you can then twist that so that goes from that orientation as you pop it up, and then turn it round, and then it pops out. So what you need to do is slowly start to disassemble these by taking out the spring-loaded components like that, getting yourself some wiggle room, and then slowly you can start to actually move this piece out. Once again, it's held in by the brake shoes, and once you start to crack these open a little bit, you can start to pull this out, and that releases the tension on the springs, and then you can start to work the springs out. So you'll see that piece there, we've broken it down. That has an internal pawl piece in there, has a couple of little pieces that go in to hold it, and this actually sits down across onto that there. You don't have to punch it out, it actually sits out, and you can see there's a couple of little ridges where it sits on. This is your little pivot that sits in there, and that once again will rock in there, and it'll be held in, as you can see here, it's held in here by this piece here. Can't go anywhere, so you don't actually need to secure it with circlips or anything. So this piece is actually sort of held in, if you like, by friction and tension, and those two pieces come apart, and once you do that, then you can actually pull this out, which runs through that small pin and locates in there. So that's how you get that out. So we'll pull this apart. As you can see, essentially the handbrakes on these cars don't get a lot of use. They're in pretty good condition. There's just a lot of grime and road gunk and muck from years of use. And so you just need to clean these up, pull them apart, tidy everything up, repaint it, and get the wire wheel onto everything. One thing I would just say, be very careful with these things and wear a good quality dust mask and wear eye protection. Just remember, this is brake dust here. I don't know what these shoes have got in. Given the 1960s, if this is original equipment, probably asbestos containing, and so you want to be very careful about making sure that you're not grinding that. But there'll also be material that's left over on the actual brake assembly itself, so degrease it, wet it down, clean it out first, and then make sure you're wearing some personal protective equipment while you are wire wheeling or cleaning things up. So there you have it. We'll reassemble the handbrakes. We'll clean everything up. Half shafts will go back in again. We'll start to put the brake lines on, and we're one step closer to having the diff ready to go and get the project car moving forward. Thanks for watching. Now just remember, if you do like it, please click like, subscribe, and feel free to leave comments. We're happy to chat to you guys around your projects if you've got them as well. Thanks for watching. Cheers.